Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to this Techstrong learning experience brought to you by Zscaler. My name is Cody, and I'm the host of Techstrong Learning, and we have an exciting presentation ahead. Before we begin, I do have just a couple of housekeeping notes. Today's session is being recorded, so if you miss any of our discussion, perhaps you'd like to rewatch or share with a friend. The on-demand recording will be made available shortly after we conclude our live session today. If you'd like to engage with our panelists, you'll notice there are a couple of options on the right side of your screen. The first of which is the chat tab. I'd like everyone to start warming that chat tab up for me by letting us know from where you are joining us. If you have any questions, we'd like you to direct those to the Q&A portion, which is directly to the right of that chat tab. We do have a couple of polls that will be launching throughout today's program, so please do respond to those whenever they pop up on your screen. And if you navigate over to the handouts panel, you'll notice that there are several resources there for you, so feel free to grab those at your own leisure. Finally, before we close out, we are giving away 4 $25 Amazon gift cards, so be sure to stick around for the duration of our program today. Our topic today is key strategies for a secure and productive hybrid workforce. And I'm joined by Kanishka Pandit, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Zscaler, and Rohit Goyal, Director of Product Marketing at Zscaler. So Rohit and Kanishka, thank you both so much for joining me today. Rohit, would you like to go ahead and take it from here?
Sure. Thank you for having us. My name is Rohit Goyal, as was introduced. My background stems in the IT side. For the first half of my career, I spent installing lots of different firewall technologies, IPS, core routing. And then I've switched over to the vendor side to help really organizations understand how to leverage vendor technologies to their best. I'm joined by Kanishka Pandit, who introduced herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kanishka Pandit. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Zscaler, and I work on Zscaler Private App Access piece here, which allows fast access to private applications. And I'm very excited to be here to talk through strategies of enabling your hybrid workforce to keep it secure and productive. So let's kick it off by just understanding what we're trying to achieve in the current market. When we've talked to a lot of our customers and interviewed even prospects, majority of the companies are now enabling and embracing hybrid technology. So we recently ran a study in which 77% of the organizations have said that they are ready to take on hybrid workforce, which means they'll allow their employees, third parties, to come into the office a few days a week and also allow remote and work from home as well. So this modernization of work has also led to modernization of application access and also the way work is done and information is consumed. 85% of the applications actually are in the cloud now, and a majority of our customers, prospects are sort of moving into this hybrid cloud environment. So while the workforce is also moving to a hybrid environment, work or applications are also sitting in between, in data center as well as in the cloud, in private and public cloud. And with that, there is just a sprawling attack surface, which cyber attackers have really exploited in the last few years. So with the hybrid workforce, you see employees and third-party users working from the office and remotely. And so your perimeter of what needs to be secure is not just your office environment, but pretty much the entire internet, because that's what they're using to access application. And so this has led to an 80% growth in ransomware attacks, as we've seen, some studies from our own Threat Labs research. Also, because of the increase in remote work, a lot of the companies and organizations have adopted VPN and firewall, and they've tried to scale that for allowing remote work for almost many companies, almost to 100% of their employees. So that has led to higher costs, just frustrated users because it has led to poor user experience given all the downsides of VPN, and also an increase in the number of service desk tickets because all of the users who are trying to get work done remotely have had hindrances to reaching their applications. And so there's just poor efficiency in terms of operations of the organizations, and also an increase in threats to applications, whether it's as they connect to get their work done. So with that in mind, given that your interest in attending this webinar is also around hybrid workforce, we thought it would be interesting to see a fictitious person who we've all worked with. And so some characteristics of Hannah, who's a legal counselor working in Acme, a fictitious company, we can describe her. And I think there are some factors of her life that kind of matches with users within your organization. So let's say she's a new employee who works in the legal department in a tech company with more than 10,000 users or employees. And Acme as a company has embraced hybrid workforce. So they need to figure out now how to enable their users or employees to work from home as well as the office. And the IT and security teams have to think about providing a secure access. So in this case, like I said, Hannah is a new employee. She works in the legal department and is focused on M&A projects for her company. And she works from home 3 days a week and in the office 2 days. So that's how she's distributing her time. And then she has access to many confidential documents as well as applications that are private to Acme, the company. And her applications reside both in the data center, as well as she has access to SaaS applications that she needs to get her work done. She's also using VPN on the days that she works from home, and also connects to Office Network when she's in the office. So while she's working from home, she has a whole different set of steps that she needs to do on a daily basis in order to access the applications. So whether we're talking about private applications she has to access, so she needs to be on the VPN, which is kind of a waste of time, frustrating user experience because VPNs are generally slow. She also has a job that is very collaborative, so she's spending a lot of time on Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and so that's her day. That's kind of the description of Hannah. And like I said, I think many of us sort of live part of her life on a regular basis. And so we'll see what her day looks like, and whether it can be improved, made better, or it is good as is.
Awesome. So I'll take it from here. So a day in her life, if you really think about it, you've got IT and security folks, and they're not always on the same page in terms of what they're trying to solve, right? And when Hannah is a remote hybrid worker, she's got a lot of challenges, and sometimes they end up in IT's bucket, sometimes they end up in security's bucket. So let's take a look at what Hannah's doing here. I know it's a little bit chaotic, but that's typically how connections go. So Hannah, who's remote in this picture, she'll connect up to a VPN into HQ, and then she'll want to access some applications. And when she does, she faces slowness. So when she faces that slowness, it really points her to two issues. One, she ends up knocking on IT's door, and it's creating those IT tickets that Kanishka was talking about. The other challenge is that if she's got slowness when she's working remotely, it really forces her to go back into the office. So now, instead of being productive while she's remote, she's being forced to go back into the office. And the overall challenge when you're thinking about this is really centered around one user who may be accessing private applications where they need that VPN ability, or maybe they're accessing public applications where they might be going direct. But when you take this and you multiply by that 10,000 user base that Kanishka was talking about, it really makes the problem even worse, right? So think about IT there for a second. How are they going to troubleshoot all of those different type of connections, especially because those connections are not always in their control? When we're thinking about Hannah here, think about how when she's home and she's connecting on her Wi-Fi, she's using local ISPs. That's not in IT's control. Typically, IT has a lot of purview over what they they have in the corporate data center or even in the corporate environment. And it becomes a little bit more challenging, but 10,000, that's really challenging. So let's think about some of the challenges we were talking about, and we'll walk through a little bit of a demo around these to give you a little more perspective. So seamless access to private applications. Those are, when Hannah wants to access those legal tools, she wants easy access to it. She also wants to remove a lot of the slowness she's having with Microsoft Teams from home. It really is, a burden on her for being able to, do her job and being productive. So sometimes she's being forced to go back into the office, and she wants to be productive from anywhere. So if you think about it, that's a day in the life of Hannah. But on the right side there, that's the admin. They've got a lot of challenges to keeping Hannah going, and they really have to think about, hey, how do we keep not just Hannah but everyone at the organization productive? So I'm going to pass it back over to Kanishka to talk about key strategies to address Hannah's needs.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here to understand, right? How do we enable Hannah and 10,000 other employees within the company, within your organization, and provide that great experience and also security for Hannah and her colleagues. So from that point of view, when you think about Hannah and her experience and the problem statements that Rohit also talked about, there's 3 things that you can do to make her life better in terms of productivity and also security that your organization demands. First is to provide a fast, direct access that is secure also to Hannah, to all the applications that she needs to get access to do her work. So whether it is whether she's working from home or remotely, and have that consistent, seamless access. So I talked about how when she works from home, she has to access VPN, and that's a totally different experience when she has to come to the office. She's just connected to the office network, and it's just an inconsistent experience for her between home and office. So we want to try and avoid that and give her a fast, direct access. You also want to provide a great security through and through for Hannah, because that's what your IT and security teams are making sure, that there are no compromised users, no stolen credentials, and that there are no advanced attacks that happen. So while she has access, there's also need for great security. And at the end of the day, both for Hannah and your IT and security teams, there's a need to provide a flawless digital experience, in that a full visibility for your IT and security teams to make sure that those ticket counts reduce, and that all action is taken before it even impacts the employees and the users. And for Hannah itself, just an overall greater experience. Like I said, both seamless in terms of access from wherever she's working. So that effectively increases the productivity of the employees within the organization and provides great security for your IT and security teams. So that's the sum of what we should be able to provide to Hannah. Let's talk about how we can do that. One way to provide this whole experience would be through zero trust. And when we talk, as a company, we talk about zero trust. There's also many of you who have shown interest in zero trust in the past. So would love to get your thoughts on that. So please put that in the chat in terms of your ability to embark on zero trust itself. So the 3 things that I talked about in the previous slide, when we talk about that and how we can increase productivity, zero trust plays a factor, a fundamental factor in terms of providing that experience and improving productivity. And how that works is, there are 3 elements to how zero trust architecture can work. So in terms of identifying the identity and context of the user itself. So who are you, and what are you trying to access within your network? So just verifying the access or the person that's trying to access applications. Control, so evaluating the risk of this user and then making that connection while inspecting the traffic as it's coming through to access the application. So control is an important factor. And the third one is to enforce the policies so that access is given to only authorized users to applications that they're meant to access. So enforcing this policy on a regular basis and then doing the continuous verification of that user in terms of identity and the context of the user itself. So this is kind of the review of or the overall zero trust architecture that kind of supports the three things that we need to address HANA's needs. So if I were to differentiate between zero trust as a modern way to look at application access, it's unlike pass-through firewall architecture, which is typical in the I don't want to say olden days, but like back in the day when we didn't have to scale for productivity and employee experience because hybrid work was not as prevalent. So this is kind of the overview of zero trust itself. And so in the next section, I really want to, I think, like I said, ask you about zero trust and the model or the architecture. If so, here's a poll for you to take, and we'd love to get your response on that. Is adopting zero trust model or architecture a priority for you? So let us know whether that's something that you're already considering, you're already on. So yes, if not at all, zero trust is not something that you're looking at, but then you can click on no. But if you are considering zero trust, and that's something that as IT and security teams, you're looking at doing in order to provide a better experience and better security for your company, then click on the third one. Not right now, but you are considering in the future. So I'll give you like 10 seconds to put your responses in. Awesome. Thank you for taking the poll and interesting responses here that we see around zero trust. So let's continue on the discussion around zero trust and how Zscaler can help you kind of embark on that journey, or if you're already through it, reach a mature state of zero trust itself.
Awesome.
Rohit, I'd love to hear from you on how Zscaler can help with that.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Kanishka, and thanks for taking that poll. So Zscaler pioneered a new approach to security and connectivity in the cloud. The Zscaler Zero Trust Exchange is a cloud-native platform that acts like a switchboard. It verifies your identity and contacts and applies controls to ensure you're not carrying any threats or leaking sensitive data. And then it enforces policies to allow or deny a connection based on that destination resource. Our platform really has three families: Zscaler for users, which enables you to stop cyber attacks and data theft, provide fast, secure application access, and deliver an exceptional user experience. Zscaler for workloads and Zscaler for IoT. We'll discuss that a little bit deeper in the following sections. A key advantage of Zscaler's unified platform is that you can start simply with whatever initiative is the greatest you have today, knowing that you can rapidly cover other use cases in the future. Since we have one unified client connector and we're cloud-based, those future steps are remarkably friction-free. So let's get a little bit into the architecture. So in the zero trust architecture that Zscaler pioneered, think of your applications as the destination, and your applications fall into two buckets on the upper right, managed by you. This is what you have in your data center, your factories, and potentially in Azure or AWS. On the upper left, you'll see managed by others. These are SaaS applications. They're simply destinations. And at the bottom, you'll see users and devices. They're all untrusted. There's no routable network between the users and applications. So how do they connect? Well, they go through the Zscaler Zero Trust Exchange, our switchboard. The first thing is like a receptionist. We say stop. We terminate the connection with a proxy architecture, and we verify identity using identity system of your choice. So we say, who are you? But identity can be stolen, and it's not enough. Then we say, what device are you coming from? Is it managed? Is it unmanaged? Is it BYOD? We can apply policies around that, where you're coming from. We could have a policy based on source, where you're going. We can have a policy around applications. These contexts are really, really important. If all looks good, we further want to control risks to make sure we prevent compromise and data loss. To do so, we're inspecting all traffic going in and out for malware and data loss. We not only do that, we're constantly looking for risk assessment. And we're seeing anomalous behavior or traffic or traffic and user. And we can terminate those connections if something is really bad. And if it's all good, we enforce policy, and policy enforcement is on a per session basis. And we basically allow or block based on those policies. So we're connecting people to only certain applications. Hence, we prevent that lateral movement. Lastly, if it's all good at this point, we connect you to the applications, to external applications, simple connection outside in. But your internal applications, we do an inside out connection using a small piece of software called an app connector. With that, your applications only resolve to Zscaler Cloud, not to the internet. That's how we hide your attack surface and minimize your attack surface. So we are able to minimize the attack surface overall. Now let me contrast that with the traditional architecture of firewall and VPN. That's what Kanishka was talking about earlier. It's important because a lot of the legacy companies are worried that they're getting disrupted. So they're kind of trying to claim that they're zero trust, but fundamentally, firewall is not a proxy architecture. It's a pass-through architecture. It can do limited inspection. It actually puts you on the network. Hence, it enables that lateral movement that we were talking about. The way these devices work, you need to discover them. A firewall facing the internet says, I'm here, come and connect with me, or come and attack me. That's why this doesn't work. Sometimes people are still confused about firewall versus our architecture. So let's think about Hannah again, right? We talked about what are some of her challenges. She needs, again, that seamless app access to those private applications. She also wants to reduce that timeout and slowness she's having with Microsoft Teams and from when she's working from home. And she needs to stay productive. And keep in mind that admin needs to make sure everything works, not just for Hannah, but needs to do it, at the entire company level. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through a little bit deeper into each one of these sections. And I'm going to pass it over to Kanishka to talk to you about that seamless access to private applications.
Thanks, Rohit. Yeah, so when we look at Hannah's life back to it, we talked about zero trust and how that can solve her problems, and how Zscaler really correlates to each one of those pillars within zero trust, and how Zscaler helps achieve that fast, seamless access, great security, and great digital experience. In terms of singling it out and seeing her experience, right? So when we talk about access to private applications, I am confident, many of you have experienced that VPN as part of the scale during the pandemic. So here's another poll for you. How many different inbound VPN gateways, if at all you've used VPN in the last few years, do you globally have, even within your organization? So I'll give you 10 seconds to respond to this. Just trying to understand, when you're using VPN, how many gateways you have in terms of scalability for VPN. So let us know what you're seeing right now within your organization. Okay. Good to see that, different responses in terms of how you're using VPN today or in the past. So let me walk you through, when you compare VPN experience with the Zscaler or zero trust experience, what the real differences are. If we go back to, or if we talk about Hannah, right, when she is accessing her applications remotely, she would have had to access them through Cloud VPN. And typically, VPN backhauls all your traffic into your data center, wherever your VPN is. And so that is a long way to connect to your applications if they're in the cloud. So it is extremely slow, hard to navigate. And because of backhauling traffic, it is quite frustrating for the user, given the time it consumes and also the access that you need to connect to your VPN. It drops often. In contrast, so that's the poor connectivity piece of it. So in contrast, with Zscaler, there's no more timeouts or slow connection. So HANA can leverage Zscaler's user to app segmentation and is directly connected to the private applications no matter where they reside. And that one-on-one tunnel is built between HANA and the application that is stitched within the Zscaler Zero Trust Exchange. So now with Zscaler, HANA has direct access to her applications, and so she's never placed on the network, which means that security is also up-leveled, and she also has great user experience because there's no more backhauling of traffic. So ultimately, the three things, again, going back to what we talked about, she has fast access, she has secure access, and also it's a great way for our IT and security teams because they now have visibility into what she's accessing. And so monitoring and troubleshooting becomes a lot easier. And so in case of Hannah and expanding on her access or day in her life as she's trying to access the seamlessly trying to access private applications. And right now, when we walk through this example, it does not matter whether she's at home or she's in the office because that experience is going to be consistent and the same for wherever she's connecting from. So here, Hannah is connected, is authenticated, and we are integrated with all the top IDPs today. And so she has an easy experience to get connected to private apps and SaaS apps. So what you see here is a screenshot of Zscaler connectivity. So when you have a client connector that's running in your system in the background, she just needs to log on to the platform. Her credentials are authenticated, and now she has access to her private apps as well as SaaS applications. And so this, like I said, is running in the background, and Zscaler has a single lightweight connector that works for all use cases and is just enabled by simplified login process. The connector verifies additional information, and so the context we talked about earlier. So the kind of the location of connectivity that Hannah has, her device posture, because we also have deep integrations with the endpoint security as well. And so all of that context is collected, and the combination of this data is helpful for Hannah to connect to her applications that she is entitled to access. And so when you see in her screen, these are the only applications that Hannah has access to because that's what she is authorized to connect as a legal counsel. And let's, for the sake of understanding how Zscaler is also able to provide that security, if Hannah is trying to access an application, and imagine this is a legal tool where all the contracts are sitting, and if for some reason she needs access to all of the legal contracts, but happens to download all of the applications contracts that into her desktop, Zscaler can be notified within the application monitoring that we have, and we will know that she accidentally downloaded all of this data, and the system typically watches for this anomaly or behavior. So we know that if she's on an untrusted network, that the channels have to be stopped and access needs to be verified as well. So that's access to Hannah in terms of providing a better experience for her to access applications. But also when we look at it from the IT and security angle, she needs to have just a single path so that the prevention of lateral movement also happens. And so I know in this case, we're calling it AI-powered segmentation, but really it is a single tunnel that's created between Hannah and the application, and that is stitched by Zscaler Zero Trust Exchange so that there's a possibility to prevent lateral movement. So even if her device is infected or if potential stolen credentials as well, there is no way that devices within that network are impacted as well. And like I said earlier, because of this one-on-one connection and segmentation that happens between the user and the application, the user is not placed on the network and is directly connected to the application itself. So that is preventing, just up-leveling the security in terms of her access to private applications. Rohit, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Hopefully we're getting through some of these challenges for Hannah. So let's get into a poll question, and this is really focused around the Microsoft Teams issue, especially when she's remote. So what are your challenges with existing monitoring solutions? A, too many dashboards and correlating it, increases troubleshooting times. Or B, no insight with users' home Wi-Fi or their local ISPs. Maybe it's C, too many escalations for basic networking or security issues. And, there are always other because we can't capture everything. So take a minute here or a few seconds and see if you can't, narrow down which one fits you best. All right, thank you for taking that poll. Let's get into, what Hannah's experiencing. So when Hannah is home and on a Teams call with her colleagues, she's regularly seeing blurry images. This impacts her productivity, and she's forced to go into the office even if she only has work with the remote employees via Teams. This continues for a couple days, and she decides to open a ticket with IT to debug the issues with Teams. So let's see what happens here. When she got on a call with IT, they pulled up Zscaler ZDX dashboard to monitor the call quality, including historical data. The admin is able to verify all of Hannah's information, including her device, location, IP address, and then drill down to the quality for the Teams call. Clearly, a score of 11 out of 100 confirms the poor quality that she's facing. ZDX captures a lot of useful information. In addition to the quality score, the admins can drill deeper to understand the input-output latency, average loss of signal during sharing. You can see that her latency is over 1,000 milliseconds with 20% loss in quality when she's sharing screens. So the admins really get empowered by looking at the ZDX dashboard. Further, the admins can look at hop-by-hop view to pinpoint the root cause, which in this case is pretty clear. There's a high latency going from her PC to her local router and gateway, and this is also resulting in weak Wi-Fi signal, which is only 60% of the max value. But let's see if her poor user experience is limited to Teams only, or it's impacting her access to other apps as well. Admin pulls up the Microsoft Outlook online, and the score is quite poor. It's 10 out of 100, which tells you that user experience is poor when accessing this app. So we have a lot of data in the dashboard, but what's powerful is that we use ML-based engine that automatically correlates this data and analyzes the score. All you have to do is click on the analyze score, and our platform begins to correlate all that data, including insights from past performance. And in just a few seconds, we tell you exactly what is driving that poor performance for Hannah, which in this case is high local network latency caused by her Wi-Fi issues. There's also an explanation column that provides more detail. This clearly helps the admin decide on next steps and potentially improving Hannah's user experience. So let's talk a little bit about staying productive from anywhere. And here, it's really when you think about it, it's true work from anywhere, and you want to drive that exceptional user experience. So when we're talking about this, we're talking about fast direct connections. And what we mean is there's 150 cloud edge locations paired with all major SaaS and public cloud providers. And we simplified, the network infrastructure. So what we've got is direct to cloud architecture, eliminating cost and complexity of those MPLS networks, backhauling traffic, and branch firewalls. And then we're optimizing productivity by reducing IT tickets and improving that user experience with integrated digital experience monitoring. We do a lot around full traffic inspection. Hopefully you got that through the presentation as we talked about, the zero trust architecture. We stop attacks and data theft in line. And again, around reducing that attack surface, we make apps invisible and impossible to attack. And it's really around that stopping that zero lateral movement. So making sure that you're connecting to the apps that you're supposed to, right? Not to the network. So let's get a little bit into, overall Zscaler and our digital experience monitoring solution, right? Zscaler gives you the visibility you need to ensure optimal digital experiences for all your users within your offices, at their homes, and those on the move. By securely monitoring your business's SaaS, public, and data center-based applications right from within your end users' devices, Zscaler is able to present user experience insights across your organization, along with an end-to-end view on performance and availability across the entire application delivery chain. Also, with more meetings now taking place online rather than in person, we have partnered closely with Microsoft and Zoom to offer the only comprehensive video conferencing experience to get to those root causes. Finally, ZDX uses machine learning to accurately expose root cause by garnering information from past experiences and ensuring that IT addresses the core issues caused by poor user experience, not just the symptoms. Hopefully you saw that, in the example that we walked through with Hannah, and that we are able to pinpoint exactly what was going on with her connection. At this point, I'd love to pass it back over to Cody, who could take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rohit and Kanishka. We do have a couple of questions, so let's go ahead and start taking them from the top. Our first question reads, which feature differentiates ZTNA from VPN?
I could take that. Interesting question. So fundamentally, ZTNA and VPN work on different trust models itself. VPN works on the assumption that any user or device connected to the network is trusted because they have sort of the credentials to get into the network. ZTNA, on the other hand, assumes no trust. So ZTNA has the ability to isolate applications and completely remove it from exposing it to the application. So it's sort of like behind a barrier. So the idea is that you can't attack what you can't see. So that's kind of how ZTNA works, whereas VPN works on the network level and only have visibility of the low-level network traffic and relies on network-based segmentation. So as a user, you're connected to the network in order to access applications because your applications are somewhere close by. ZTNA works at the application level. And so there's a segment, so there's sort of like application segments so that the users are not given access to the network. Instead, they're directly connecting to the applications that they are authorized to use. So VPNs are physical or virtual appliances, whereas ZTNA is typically cloud-based, which is what Zscaler is as well. So I would say that ZTNA and VPN are just fundamentally different approaches, and ZTNA just provides more security to accessing your private apps, whereas VPN is more access to your entire network. And so if there's a possibility of compromised user, the chances of attacks with VPN are a lot higher, whereas with ZTNA, because you have that single tunnel application access, lateral movement can also be prevented.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Our next question reads, So we already have several monitoring applications that we use in different parts of our environment. Why do I need another?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I appreciate it because you're really thinking about your environment. And when we think about our environment, we have to think about the different aspects of the environment. We've got devices, we've got networks, we've got applications, and the way that users connect into those, it's challenging. When we're thinking about Hannah here, for example, remember when she was connecting in from home, she's connecting in from her device, but connecting over, these networks. And then those networks are out of IT's control. And then she's connecting into some sort of application. And the challenge is that what we see with organizations today is that they've got solutions around each one of these, and they really become silos. And they don't have a good way to actually harness the power of correlating all that information. So when you actually look at things end to end, what you can do is you can actually troubleshoot things faster. So service desk teams or network operations teams, they have the ability to use something like Zscaler Digital Experience to hit that one analyze button. And then all of a sudden it takes in all this telemetry data and it gives you a potential answer for where the issue is. So in Hannah's example, where we went through, we were able to see that, hey, she's actually having some issue between her device and the network, right? So it's really around that Wi-Fi issue. So if you don't have a solution that looks at it holistically end to end, you're not going to be able to quickly troubleshoot this. You're going to end up with a lot more tickets, and you're going to put a lot more pressure on IT.
Great. Thank you so much for that answer. Our next question reads, can you detect if it is a regional or local issue for a single user?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So when we're thinking about monitoring, again, think about it holistically. And within the Zscaler Digital Experience dashboard, we can actually quickly look at a global view, which is a map of the world, and you can actually see where all your users are located and where they're connecting in from. And we've got a ZDX score, which tells you if it's poor, okay, or good in terms of their user experience. And it'll light up on the dashboard on a map to give you an idea as to, hey, is this happening globally for an X application, or is it happening only in a certain segment? So maybe if it's happening, in part of the world, maybe it's a local ISP issue, right? So think about how you can quickly look at a dashboard, but think about it from that end user's perspective. And keep in mind that when we started off the presentation, we talked about everyone having this hybrid strategy. So users are not always, in a corporate, office environment. They're hybrid. So that means they're out and about. They could be at a local coffee shop. They could be at a hotel. They could be at an airport. So keeping track of, their connections is not easy. But being able to see that, holistically on a dashboard, that's how we make it easier.
Awesome. Well, Rohit and Kanishka, I do want to give each of you the opportunity to leave our audience with any closing remarks. But before we do that, we do have one final question. And this final question asks, since ZDX requires an agent, does it require a lot of resources on the device?
That's a great question. No, it does not. And, the great thing about ZDX is that it's integrated. So when we're talking about solving all those security challenges, it's actually part of the same agent. So you get security plus monitoring all within that same lightweight agent. And it doesn't require much in terms of, enabling it and getting it going. You can actually toggle it on once you have our Zscaler client, distributed and deployed across your organization. And within minutes, you can actually start to collect information. And the great thing is that it's just a simple toggle button. You don't have to go and redeploy, 5 different agents to solve some of these complex problems that are out there today.
Awesome. Well, that all sounds Awesome. Sounds super great. So Rohit and Kanishka, thank you both so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you sticking around and answering all of our questions. Was there any final remarks or anything you'd like to close out with before we do go off the air today?
Yeah, Kanishka, you want to go first?
Sure. I think if there's a couple of things we want to leave you with is around, embarking on zero trust journey as part of your hybrid workforce. That would be one thing I definitely want to stress on. Given that we are discussing hybrid workforce, I assume that you're interested in providing great security and experience for your user for hybrid workforce. So I think if we have made you a transition into a zero trust, believing in zero trust as a concept itself, I think that's a win. And all the bullet points that we touched on with respect to how Zscaler can help as well. So it kind of correlates with how zero trust functions as well. And so if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us, whether it's on LinkedIn or through sales@zscaler.com as well, through our website. Rohit.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And maybe I'll just dovetail off of that. So I would say just, think about the chaos slide that we talked about, right? And all the different connections that you're typically responsible for. And think about, if you have a HANA in your organization, or you have some similar type users that you're supporting, and how you can do that in an easier way, right? And it's exactly what Kanishka said. It's about a journey. We know that, you're just not going to go switch your architecture overnight, but Zscaler allows you to basically start small, maybe with a small pilot or a small project, and then think about how you can actually scale that out and, start to take advantage of all that we have to offer. We've got such an amazing platform with a lot of capabilities, and we know you're going to love it.
Outstanding. Kanishka and Rohit, thank you both so much for joining me on Techstrong Learning today. I really appreciated the time it takes to put together these materials, these slide decks, and to really know your product. So again, thank you both for being on here with me today.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Cody.
Mm-hmm. So I would like to remind everyone that our session today was recorded. So you will be receiving an email with a link to access this recording on demand. Or of course, you can find it living on the Security Boulevard website at securityboulevard.com/webinars. And then just be sure to look in the on-demand section and it will be there waiting for you. The 4 winners of our $25 Amazon gift card drawing are Dino H, Jihoon K, Dominic G, and Sandy N. So to our 4 winners, congratulations. Keep an eye on your inbox to claim that gift card. It should make its way over to you in about the next 48 hours, but if you don't happen to see that email, please check your spam folder just in case it gets filtered out. I'd like to thank Zscaler for being our sponsor for today's program, and to our audience, thank you so much for joining us live. We really appreciate you being here with us for the past 45 minutes, so we do really appreciate you being here with us. As soon as we close out, there will be a survey that pops up. We'd really like you to fill that out for us. Let us know your thoughts about today's program or perhaps what you'd like to see on a future program. Either way, we do hope to see everyone at a future Techstrong Learning experience.